Andrew Ramer, who now goes by the name Eli, is the co-author of the international bestseller Ask Your Angels, a Maggid, or sacred storyteller in the Jewish tradition. He is also the author of several acclaimed books that bridge the worlds of angels, queerness, and Jewish spirituality, including the Lambda Literary Award finalist, Two Flutes Playing. His most recent book, Ever After, reimagines the afterlives of 11 iconic Western writers. He lives in Oakland, California. And I will say it is that is not his most recent book. This is his most recent book, um, uh, temporarily until his next book comes out, and perhaps the one after that, Tales of an Urban Mystic. I'll share just a little bit about my encounter with Eli, my first encounter, and where that has led, and what I really love about what he does in the world, and why I experience it is so important. Many years ago, too many for me to count anyway, I encountered this little book. Before I ever met Eli, it was probably around 1996 or 97. And it was in Giovanni's room in Philadelphia, a queer bookstore that I think has just turned 50 now. And I encountered this. And up until that point in my life, um, I had the gift to be in queer spirit community around people who slowly, patiently taught me to begin to value my own life and to value myself as a queer person, and to consider the possibility that there were within me spiritual capacities and value that were intrinsic to who I was as a queer person. I ran into a few authors who really empowered me and began to deepen that vision. And this little book, Two Flutes Playing, um, was one of the first books that when I read it, something in my cells knew it was speaking to a deeper truth than I had ever imagined about myself. That there was woven into me a lineage of love and a lineage of light and a sacred connection to the rest of the world that I had not experienced myself too terribly deeply at that point. And I will share that over the decades since I first encountered this book, again and again, I will be working with clients, or I'll have people come to the retreats that I do with Spirit Journeys, which offers queer spirit spaces. And people will say, "Have you heard of this book? Have you seen this book?" And they read it, and it's almost as if every page of the book was a mirror in which they see something deeply true of their own soul. Then I had the gift in 2003 to meet Eli. And many years later, during the pandemic, to begin talking with him weekly and sort of cultivating a dialogue. Eli is one of those all too rare human beings who is not only gifted with a unique visionary capacity, but the bravery to stake everything on what they perceive through their visions, like Meister Eckhart or Joan of Arc or Francis of Assisi. Eli um, sees into a deeper truth, and has the bravery to bring it back to this world and to put it out to all of us and to live his life centered around it. And perhaps the most important thing, to invite all of us to do the same, to listen for the deeper truths of our own being and the deeper truths at the heart of our communities, and uh, and to dare to seek those and to bring them out and to share them with each other and to create communities that have the courage and the vision to live those visions. So tonight, Eli will be reading from Tales of an Urban Mystic, which is about his own journey of learning how to go within and trust those realities and bring them forth. And his tireless effort through all of his books and all of his speaking and just how he lives to invite us to do the same. So, thank you, Eli. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Hunter. Thank you for our friendship. You have walked every step of the way with me as this book was coming together. So I celebrate you. And it's so joyous to see friends and family here. The cover of the book is in the background is a photograph that I took from my balcony of exactly what I look out at, except for now, the very bottom of the sky is a gorgeous crimson. And this photograph, my grandson Levi took of me, I think in August at the ferry building. And this photograph my father took of me, oh, just, a few months ago. And my friend Wesley spliced it all together into this image. So, what I want to do this evening is read two sections of the book to you, which will only take 8 or 9 hours. So, if you need to go to the bathroom or get something to eat, or maybe 10 hours, we'll see. But, take care of your bio needs, take care of your food needs. And so, I'll be reading two sections. The first is the beginning of the book, which is called A Pathway to These Tales. And then I'm going to skip to chapter 30 and read you the story of the central spiritual experience of my entire life so far. So some of you know some of these stories. I've known some of you for a very long time, and some not so long. So a pathway to these tales. If I was a different sort of person, this would be up on the screen so I could pretend to be looking at you, but I don't know how to do that. So I won't always be looking at you. So I invite you to maybe close your eyes. I don't know if you grew up with parents reading you bedtime stories, but if you want to lie down and feel like this is a bedtime story, go for it. Sigmund Freud wrote that anatomy is destiny. In my case, it's geography. I was born on March 24th, 1951, in Elmhurst, Queens, New York, across the street from an amusement park called Fairyland. And since March 21st, 2016, I live in Oakland, California, up the street from an amusement park called Fairyland. The slash marks in Elmhurst and Oakland are deliberate. I'm a great lover of trees and the books that come from them. And that queen and those fairies are important too, as in gay boy, gay man, magical friends with wings, and the fairies in fairy tales, which I've loved since I was a little boy. As far back as age 3, I heard voices in my head, remembered places I'd never been to, had encounters with beings from other realities, awaken in my dreams, and liked to leave my body and spirit and fly around my room. Given the time and culture I was raised in, I never heard other people talking about experiences like that. And from their reactions when I did, I knew at an early age to never talk about mine. Tried to stay in my body and did my very best to stop the voices, with some success during the day, but none when I was dreaming. So you can probably understand for most of my life why I've asked myself, am I a mystic or a mistake? About 10 years ago, my spiritual director used the word prophet to describe me. Stunned, I said to her, thank you, but can we call that the P word, please? If someone else had been visited by dead relatives, angels, and spent decades taking dictation from God, the mother, occasionally father, and increasingly a God whose pronouns are its, collected in an unpublished book called God Waves. They might be comfortable owning the P word for prophet, not pissing, but not me for much of my life. At 74, I know that we come into the world with different gifts and know that in other times and places, mine would have been recognized by the elders who would have taught me to develop them for the good of our village, our tribe, the world. My guides and angels have told me again and again that many of the people in psych wards and wandering the street talking to people, not on wireless devices, who aren't there, came into the world with the same gifts I did, but lacked the support and guidance I had. In the dance of my different gifts, I'm vision impaired, have a learning disability, can't drive or dribble or shoot a basketball. Not that I ever wanted to. And I still have to count on my fingers and struggle to keep my checkbook balanced. Not that anyone else I know still uses a paper checkbook, but I know I'm a good writer, artist, teacher, and friend. And if you're reading this book or listening to me read from it, I imagine it's because you're aware of your own innate gifts and are looking for stories to corroborate them so that you can nurture and use them for the betterment of yourself and the world. My father was born in the Bronx, New York in 1923 to an Orthodox Jewish family. My mother was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1925 to an atheist, communist, socialist Jewish family. And I learned very different things from each of them. In Dad's family, God was never spoken of, but was always present in the background of their prayers, blessings, and actions. Ever present like the water in a fishbowl is present for the fish. When I was in first grade, my best friends, Gary and Greg, who were twins, would come home from Christian Sunday school smiling and talking about God. I wanted to go with them and told my parents, who ended up sending me to Hebrew school, which they hadn't planned on doing. Mom told me later. One day, Nanny, my mother's mother, was visiting, and I asked her if she believed in God. Only stupid people do. Being vision impaired, a sissy and bad at sports, the only thing I had going for me was being one of the smartest kids in my class. So, goodbye, God. Then a few years later, after a relative died, I asked Nanny what happens to us when we die, thinking of my own unspoken memories of other lives. Her answer, they bury you in the ground and you rot away, made me try to bury my memories even more deeply. I wonder what my life would have been like if the traditional Jewish teachings on prophecy, our rabbis hearing God's voice, and our writings on Gilgul, reincarnation, had been a part of my parents' and my Hebrew school teachers' lives, but they weren't. And over the years, I've often found myself singing the chorus of Paul Simon's 1975 song of the same title. Still crazy after all these years. Crazy and accomplished. In addition to being a co-author of the international bestseller, Ask Your Angels, a guide to opening up to and working with your own guardian angels, and the author of Angel Answers, which contains messages from my angel, and Revelations for a New Millennium, which includes messages from a range of guides, angels, and from God. I've written 16 other published books. 5 of them are queerish and Jewish, 2 are kids' picture books, and 3 are for gay men with stories, poems, prayers, and essays in various anthologies and websites. But recently, in a conversation with my therapist, I prefaced something my guardian angel said to me that week with these words. While I was meditating or having a psychotic delusion, which made her laugh, as I hoped I would, I also wonder what my life would have been like if someone had shared with me Mahatma Gandhi's thoughts on his own inner voices. He wrote, "There is no question of hallucination. I have stated a simple scientific truth, thus to be tested by all who have the will and the patience to acquire the necessary qualification. A scientific truth." 3 times in my teens, I dreamed that I was a teenage girl taking care of Gandhi when he was an old man. And as I've gotten older, from time to time, when I don't have a beard and I'm wearing my outside glasses, people come up to me and say, "Has anyone told you you look like Gandhi?" There's a wonderful life-size statue of him behind the Ferry Building in San Francisco, done by Zlatov Punov and Steve Lowe. A few months ago, I was looking up at him when a family from India came up to me to ask if they could take our picture because you look just like him. I started writing stories in college, which I slowly gathered into a book called Little Pictures. I worked on the stories for 14 years, inspired by a book my mother read to me when I was small, Little Pictures of Japan, that her mother read to her when she was small. It's a collection of translated haikus about the world of nature, selected by Olive Beaupre Miller and illustrated by Catherine Sturgis. As you can see from the title of my book, there are no capital letters in it. Their absence wasn't inspired by author and painter E. E. Cummings, who didn't use them, but by the fact that I have a learning disability called dysgraphia. When I told my father in college that I wanted to be a writer, he told me I'd have to learn to type. And when I moved to my first apartment, he gave me his old manual typewriter and a book of typing lessons. Because of my dysgraphia, it took me 10 years to become a good typist. And to this day, I struggle to type capital letters. And all my first drafts and emails, as some of you may have noticed, are written without capital letters. I don't text at all. Too hard to see and do. When Little Pictures and the drawings I did for it felt complete back in the mid-1980s, I gave it to my wonderful editor friend Cheryl Woodruff, who's still a good friend. She passed the manuscript on to Chris Cox, her colleague at Ballantine Books, who loved it. Chris was a member of the noted gay writers group, The Violet Quill, and Little Pictures came out in 1987 from the imprint he started, Available Books. Then I began to work on a sequel called 22 Views of a Life, a memoir told through the rooms in my apartment, the objects in them, and the parts of my body, which Chris was planning to publish. Sadly, he died of AIDS in 1990. The imprint he started at Ballantine died with him, and I put the manuscript away, never to be published. Yet. But I've never stopped writing stories, essays, prayers, poems, novels. I am in notebook 171 of my journal, which I began in college and continue to take dictation from my guides, angels, and from God. Over the years, I've made lists and written brief descriptions of the transformative experiences of my life. One called Moments of Seeing, inspired by Virginia Woolf's expression, Moments of Being, from a collection of her writings with that title that was published after her death. In Ever After, I tell a story in which she lived much longer, wrote more, and lived happily ever after with another woman. At various times, I thought about expanding the stories in my list, but never did. Then COVID came to live with us. The nightmare wars in Ukraine and the Middle East followed, and with climate change threatening us all, I was meditating one morning when Goddess said to me, "It's time to collect those mystical experiences into a book about your amazing journey to now." Now, wow, that was not what I was thinking about doing, but hearing her words and telling these stories is about starting the final chapter in my life by being more fully in the present in my body than I've ever been before, by writing about past lives to be in this one, and by dancing with angels so that I can dance with you now. I've gone on week-long retreats, but never lived in a beautiful ashram out in the woods somewhere, like many people I know have done. Near the end of his life, my post-Orthodox dad had a guru, Rajneesh, today more commonly known as Osho, while my brother was a follower of Swami Muktananda. But I've never had a guru or done the things you might think would have led to my mystical experiences. No, I'm just a big old city boy wandering through the world with a set of ancient gifts, here on an amazing journey, the major adventures of which I'll be sharing with you in your own unfolding journey, through a series of spiraling, not always linear stories about the magical, mystical things that have happened to this old man, who's sitting at his desk, looking out over his laptop, which he bought in 2011, but likes to say he bought in 1928, looking over puddles on the flat roof of the apartment building next door, out to the Cathedral of Christ the Light, a few tall buildings in downtown Oakland, some beautiful trees, a sliver of Lake Merritt, and fairyland just out of sight. So, thank you. Thank you for being with me. It's such a joy and a delight. And I'm going to now again read to you for about 5 more hours another chapter. It's chapter 30 of the book. It's called And Light Pours In. And again, this is the central spiritual transformative experience of my entire life so far. I don't think there'll be another one. I've had 2 other major ones, but nothing like this. So imagine that you've read the first 29 chapters, but a while ago, so you don't remember all of them, but I'll reference a little bit of it. After I finished taking dictation from Pericles, a past self, I stepped back into my ordinary life, feeling enriched, expanded, and renewed. Not long after, on the afternoon of Saturday, May 7th, 1977, I was sitting on my bed, about to put my shoes on, when the room began to change. Everything solid seemed to be made out of something like clouds, the walls, the bed, and even myself. I felt a powerful gathering of silence swirling around me, and then the entire universe somehow became visible as a vast, enormous disk resting on the top of my head. Next, from the outermost edges of that huge disk, a circular wave of golden light began to rush in toward the center, where it poured into an opening on the top of my head. The waves were light, and the light was a voice from this and every other world. Hello. the voice said, in one and yet a million different languages, a warm female voice that poured into the top of my head in wave after golden wave of liquid light. Awed, split open, filled with bliss, I felt as if my life was just beginning, not at my birth, but in that middle moment. Then the voice in the wave receded, and I turned to the being who had spoken and said, "Who are you?" Again, from the outermost edge of the disk, another circular wave came toward me, pouring into the top of my head. "You know who I am," the warm female voice said. Then the waves retreated, but I still didn't understand and repeated, "Who are you?" Again, the same answer came in an inrushing thunder of gold. "You know who I am." And the truth awakened inside me. But not yet believing, I asked the third time, "Who are you?" And the voice that came washing into me in wave upon golden wave was louder than it had been before. "You know who I am." Then there was silence, a retreat of waves, and an advance again of light words, this time more thunderous than anything that had come before or since. And she, capital S, said to me, "You know who I am. I am the great mother. I am that from which all things come." Then the thunder of her voice retreated to the outer edge of that infinite golden disk, a voice that I could hear by seeing and see with sound, a voice that was also a million voices at the same time, and yet always a warm, strong, gentle, caring female voice who answered my next question, "Why have you come?" in a tone both challenging and teasing. "To torment you," which made me laugh. "What should I call you?" I asked her next. "Call me anything you like. Call me Mother or God. Call me Aphrodite." I knew by Aphrodite that she didn't mean the goddess of love, the daughter of Zeus, but a goddess far more ancient, Aphrodite, the queen of heaven, a manifestation of the way that our earliest ancestors first encountered the divine as God, the mother. Being a longtime lover of Greek mythology, that was the name I chose. Next, I asked her how I should worship her, and she filled my head with laughing images of fiery altars of sacrifice and long lines of priests, and said that the only thing that she wanted from me was that I write a book. My immediate response was, "There are too many books in the world already, and I don't want to add to that mess." She had no comment. So I asked, "But why me?" In fact, I asked that question many times in the days and weeks to come, and she always answered, "Why not you?" To which I said, "But I'm not a lesbian or even a woman." She laughed when I said that and answered, "I talk to who I want to." So began an amazing year in my life in which her voice, which I heard at first on the outside of my head, began to settle down into a glowing spot in the very middle of my brain, a place where I'd never heard a voice before. And instead of speaking in an infinite number of languages, her voice settled down into English, my mother tongue. In order to hear her, all that I had to do was bring my attention to that spot, and I surrendered to her request, sitting at my kitchen table to take dictation. For several days during that time, I entered a state of awareness in which I knew that everything was her. I remember sitting on the toilet one morning in tears, knowing that she was the toilet seat, my butt, poop, the toilet paper I was pulling off the roll. I managed to rein in that awareness, go out into the world, but later, walking home on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, I came upon a homeless man passed out on the sidewalk in a puddle of urine. I stepped into the street to get by him over cigarette butts and pop tops from beer cans, and I knew in every fiber of my being that the drunken man, the sidewalk, his urine flowing down into the street, the tossed cigarette butts, and those discarded pop tops were all her. Weeping, staggering in the street, I said to her, "This is too much for me to handle. I'll never be able to get home if I keep feeling this. Please take it away." In that instant, I returned to my usual state of consciousness. And I've never again had an experience quite like that. Yet it's permeated every single moment since of living in her world. I often hear love songs as prayers, and these experiences echo in and out of one song that you may know, which was first recorded in 1971 by a soul group called the Stylistics. You are everything, and everything is you. She began dictating me as Aphrodite, but soon began to change so slowly that I never could quite say when the warm, wise older Aphrodite changed into a younger, more intimate Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess. Then she shifted again, so gradually that I couldn't tell when Chamichadi Inanna became the tranquil, compassionate Buddhist goddess of mercy, Guanyin, speaking to me in the same voice, in the same place in my brain, with a slightly different accent. She dictated book one of her teachings to me, a word at a time, gave me the words to book two, a paragraph at a time. Then for book three, she dropped thoughts into my mind that I had to shift around and play with, playing with words until she said, "That's right, keep it." While I was working on book three, she began to shift again, like water constantly changing. I knew her as Earth one day, Moon the next, then as the Wiccan Maid Mother Crone triple goddess. And then she came to me as Sarada Devi, the wife of the 19th century Indian mystic Ramakrishna. In the midst of an at-home retreat, for the very first time she came to me, she was vast, silent, allowing me to encounter her as the void. This, she told me, is easier to open up to when we know God as she, the void and absence with him, and the vast openness pregnant with possibility when we know God as goddess. Then she appeared in my bedroom one morning as the ancient Egyptian goddess Isis, standing beside me, solidly present, extending a hand to me and touching me physically, which never happened again, placing an enigmatic ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, in the middle of my right hand. After that, she began to show herself to me as an elegant, gray-haired, Jewish-looking woman in her mid-60s whose name, she told me, was Leah. I could see her when I sat quietly and turned inward. And it was in that period that she gave me book four. I would write down the words that came to me, shift and rearrange them, add to them, and wait for her to whisper, "Yes." I never sought out the voice of God, nor was I drinking or smoking pot or taking hallucinogenic substances. I didn't think I believed in God at all when first she came to me, and was initially stunned that God might be she and not he. And the questions that interest me now aren't, why does God speak to me? But what are the circumstances that made it such that I could listen? And why aren't you listening too? My best answers, remembering my death in a Nazi gas chamber and being raised in this life with just the right combination of faith and doubt, has shaped me in such a way that I'm able to hear voices that others usually do not or cannot. The same way that a dog can hear a dog whistle. Not crazy, just canine. Can't drive, can't dribble a basketball, but I've been told again and again by her, by guides and angels, that the skills like this are inherited biological traits that some of us have strongly, others not so strongly. And that's why some of us can hear things that most other people can't consciously. Because I've been told over and over again down through the years that she and the angels and our ancestors and guides and the earth itself are speaking to us all the time unconsciously. She's been speaking to me ever since in varying ways that you'll hear more about. I continue to take dictation from her, and sitting in her energy field is a part of my meditation practice, which I try to do twice a day with occasional success. So, dear reader, please consider that you too might be a prophet, and that even if you're not, she is whispering to you, to us, all the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eli. Such luminous words. You know,
Thank you.
you've given you give such a gift in the book because so many mystics are so intent on sharing what it is that goddess has to say by whatever name they call that truth. But you really share what it's like to be a human in the wrestling match and in the dialogue and in the journey of learning how to listen. Um, I have just a couple questions I thought I'd ask, and then we can open the floor, see if anyone else has a question or two. The first one is, we live in a world in which we're often told to prioritize other people's messages about who we are over our own sense of who we are. And even to mistrust our own eyes and what our eyes see, to believe what the authorities tell us is truth. If people were to come to you and say, how do I begin that journey of listening? If she's always speaking, if truth, the angels, guardians, guides, goddess are speaking, how do we begin the journey of learning how to listen?
Good question. I have asked and been asked this question over the years many times, and what the angels and what God have said to me is a pretty simple answer. But I want to spiral out a little bit. There's a spelling of a word that I love, Godd. I love that it sits between God and goddess, and I learned it from a good friend of mine, Tamara Eskenazi, who found it in the papers of her late friend, the Syrian Argentinian American Jewish lesbian feminist scholar, theologian, and writer Savina Tubal. So I'm using this word GODD more and more. And what GODD says is the most important thing that you can do to open up is to be present in your body. And the best way that you can do that is to take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes every morning and every evening to massage yourself from head to toe, wherever you can touch, as lovingly as you can, as if you were touching a beloved baby or your beloved partner. And that when we are grounded in our body in this way, which seems illogical, but when we're grounded in our body this way, we're more present in the world to hear it, capital IT, GODD. And so one of the things she said to me, which is annoying to lots of people, is when you're outside, be present. Never listen to podcasts or music on your phone, ever. Do not talk to anyone on your phone. Be present in the world. Touch every tree you pass. Start with being present in your body and then be present with the world. And this is what our ancestors did. So every tradition on the planet had prophets. And we've just been so distracted that we haven't. So it's sort of a long answer, but that's the best guidance I've gotten. And I get it again and again and again and again and again.
Thank you. And we live in a world right now which is changing so dramatically around us in ways that are overwhelming for so many people. And sort of the classic image of mystics is those who sort of disappear off into some transcendent realm as refuge. And you really model a different way of being a mystic, which is urban, which is in the world, which is engaged and relational. Um, I wondered if you would speak to what you see as the mystic's role in the time that we live in right now. Those of us who feel that calling, and feel some deeper truth in us in the midst of this crazy spinning uh, planet right now. What would you say the mystic's role is right now at this point in time in our history?
Well, I love to sing, so I'm going to do a little bit of a song. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of a singer, performer, composer named Molly Bago, Bajogot, who lives in Western Massachusetts, and she's a friend of a good friend. And she wrote a song, and you can look up her music, and her entire last CD is up online. And she wrote a song that I listen to a lot and sing a lot. Change is coming. What do we need to imagine? Oh, yes, change is coming. What do we need to imagine? So I think the role of any mystic is to redefine that word so that we don't think it's someplace out there, but actually grounded right here. And I think the role of an elder, I mean, we live in a society where you need to use all these products to look younger. You need to have plastic surgery. I recently wrote a story where a man decides to go for plastic surgery and he goes back to work after it. And all his coworkers say, "Oh my God, you look fabulous. You look 10 years older than the last time we saw you." And he says, I've been dyeing my hair gray for years, but having the wrinkles and the waddle, he says, I've never been cruised so much in my life. So grounding ourselves in nature, owning again the sacred role of elders. So I'm teaching a class on Zoom for University of San Francisco where I used to teach, and I keep saying to them, you're elders in training. So opening up to spirit, opening up to elderhood. And sometimes what I say is I'm sitting in a classroom and I'm looking at the students and I'm thinking, some of you have been reincarnating for longer than I have. So, you're 17 or 19 or 25. You're actually older than me in my 74-year-old body. So that's my sort of long, spiraling answer to your question.
Thank you. Well, how about we have a little time left in our hour. If anyone else has just appreciations or questions that you want to offer after hearing Eli's reading and his answers, feel free to just unmute yourself.
Hi, Eli.
Hey, hey, David.
Um, One, just thank you for everything. I so appreciate this time to spend with you. Um, I do have a question relative to kind of the second question that Hunter's uh, posed, which is so much of humanity right now feels like it's running away from spirit. That the idea of connecting to spirit, embracing spirit, is so terrifying. Um, I would propose because they're afraid that they actually might find the truth, and the truth is scary. Um, what can I, as a person, demonstrate or put out or be that encourages folks to stop, turn around, and run towards spirit?
Beautiful question. Knowing you for a while, I know that you do that in the work that you do and how you move in the world. I think what I would say is, again, the more embodied we are, the more we're broadcasting that energy out everywhere. So what my guides and angels keep telling me is, you're standing in line in the supermarket. Beam out the energy. There's an expression I like to use called transpolitical espionage agent. So, like, I'm wandering around like as a transpolitical, spiritual espionage agent in secret. No one knows. You know, I'm not showing it, but that's part of the work. So wherever we are, to beam out this energy, and then I don't know. I can't. I think it's in this book, but I can't remember. But I think there's a section in this book about the thymus chakra. And I don't know how many people have ever gotten into chakras, but one of the things that I was taught, is it? Well, it might be here and it might not be,
It
but
is there. It is there. I
right
just read
there.
it today. I can look for it if you want, but
Oh, wonderful. Okay, it's there. So if you want to look for it, that would be lovely. But one of the things I was taught was that in the middle of our chest, we have a chakra. And I don't know if everyone's gotten into chakras, that was implanted in us by our guides and elders and angels after the explosion of the first nuclear device, when they thought, oh, bad move. And when we open up to this energy, it actually is going to connect when every person has it awakened, every single person on the planet. So one of the things that you can do, you're sitting on a bus, you stopped in your car at a traffic sign, you're in the subway, boop, boop, beam out this energy. And when I was first taught it, decades and decades ago, I almost never felt it in anybody. And one of the things that amazes me now, I am an obsessive baby watcher. Um, since I was 4 and asked my mother how old I had to be before I could get pregnant, and she walked me through how that was probably not going to happen, they are sending better babies. I don't know if anyone else notices this, but I've talked about this with Marla and other people. They are sending wiser, better babies who just look right at you, and they have opened up thymus chakras. So that would be my kind of long answer, but focus on that. Use it, and use just, again, being a secret transformative agent. You don't have to hold classes or do anything. Just, in fact, sometimes it's more powerful. Just wander around, broadcast out your wisdom.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, thank you.
I,
And
I
again,
have to,
I know your wisdom.
thank you. I have to log off because I have to run to another meeting for work, but much love, and we'll talk with you soon.
I look forward to it. Blessings and love. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Bye.
Mm.
And just to jump in, it's chapter 39. And you also wrote like a guided practice for people and suggested that we can record it. So you haven't you wrote about it and gave some guidance. Chapter 39, An Amazing Vision. That's where you find it.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds a little familiar. It might even be on my website, but I'm not sure. But again, when I think about, what do I want, like in my, eulogy, like what's the thing I want someone to say, oh, he taught us about that. There are other people who are working with the thymus chakra, and I tell a story about it in the book. So I didn't invent it, but it's out there. So thank you for getting us spiraled in.
I have a question. Um, you could tell us more about how to get copies of the book.
Yes. If you go to the publisher, and their name is WIPF, WIPF, and stock, all one word, .com, WIPFANDSTOCK.com, and put in the title, the book will come up. And then if you actually scroll down all the way on the page, if you're willing to sign up to be on their notification list, you can get a 40% discount on one book from them. So it could be this one or another one because they do interesting books.
And we will also be sending out an email that has the recording of this evening, a link to the recording on YouTube, and also it'll contain a link to the publisher, so you can follow that link to purchase the book as well.
Thank you, Hunter.
Yeah, we have another comment that came in over the chat that I wanted to read, which I think is a common experience of those who are mystically inclined. It just says, I am a mystic too, but I don't want to be. It is lonely.
Mhm.
So what would you say to those of us who find ourselves to be that, but find it's also hard and lonely?
Mm. It can be hard and lonely, but we've known each other for a little while, and we're in the same little tribe with other people on the screen from the same little tribe. So you're not alone. And as a younger elder in training, reach out to me. I love being in contact with you. I love your writing. So I'm really happy, not just on a screen. We could find a time and place to sit and talk. And as you're wandering around the world, start to notice someone may walk right by you on their way to, I don't know, Safeway, or to catch the bus. And you'll begin as you deepen your awareness to notice, oh, fellow mystic. Oh, fellow mystic. So often I live in Oakland right by Lake Merritt, and I am amazed at the number of people who stop to talk to me. I'm just sitting there reading a book, and some of them become good friends. They're all mystics. And I'm just sitting there. Almost all of them are much younger than me, and they recognize me.
Thank you, Eli.
Well,
Anyone
I,
else? Yeah, Larry.
yeah, thank you. This has been amazing and beautiful. And knowing you, Eli, it's like, wow, it it really resonates. So I have one question more substantive and then one more practical for you and Hunter. Um, so the more substantive one was something you said. You said it logically doesn't make sense. And you were saying about how being in your body um, enables one to be more connected to the divine or the angels. And like to me, that made perfect sense. But I'm wondering if you could, is that something in terms of being in the here and now and like that's a prerequisite and we often get in our heads. So I'm wondering if you could just speak to that. And then just a follow-up question is that to me, just I'm looking forward to reading the book and delving into it. And it really is a gift. And I'm just wondering, how can us around the screen, be fellow mystics with you? And how are you going to be doing more teaching? And how can we support you and each other in and bringing and being more in the moment and doing the things that you've learned through your own path?
Thank you. Where my mind went was to Torah. And I think lots of us on the screen are Jewish and in Jewish communities. And what the Torah tells us is in one of the two creation stories that the Creator breathes into the body of the person it made. So we're infused with the Spirit in this body. And when we remember it, oh, breath is divine, I think it helps. It helps the brain, it helps the cells, it helps the body. And so I hope that's a helpful answer. And I think that's why so many meditation practices, even if they're not using that language, are having people breathe. And in terms of supporting each other, let us know when your books come out. Let us know when your film comes out. Let us know when your next CD comes out. I don't even know. I don't even know the current technology out in the world, but share it in community. A lot of us are from Sharzov. A lot of us are overlapping gay in other places. So I think that's one of the ways that we can. If you want to share the information about this book, feel free to send the link. Hunter's going to send you the link to the Whipfenstock page. So, yeah, I think that would be my short answer. And we can keep talking about this when we catch up. But I'm just so grateful because I'm looking at a whole screen of mystics,
Uh,
elders, wise ones.
Well, we're coming towards the end of the time we've originally allotted. I do want to follow up on Eli's answer to your question by saying that it's my understanding that there is a Substack that will be starting in February that Eli will be a participant in, putting out messages on a regular basis, moving off of the print page and into the evanescent world of the internet and putting out teachings along with a few other dear ones. Um, in starting February 17th?
Yes, the new
Yeah.
moon. It will be called New Moon Messages, and Hunter will have a part in it, and Marla, and some of you may know from Sharzov Leo Hill. And so we all are mystics in our own different ways and getting information from whatever it is. And we'll be doing little postings at the new moon every month, starting in February.
So that'll be another way after you read the book to keep in touch with that. Also, I should mention Spirit Journeys, which is the company that I now am the vision keeper for. Um, we'll be having webinars throughout the year. And occasionally, whenever a good idea strikes me in conversation with Eli, I invite him back on here. And I invite other teachers and mystics and uh, extraordinary heartfelt humans to share. So there'll be other webinars here. I offer a few retreats a year as well. Right now, in a world in which AI is quickly showing itself perhaps more intelligent in some ways than the wet matter we keep up here, that the cultivation of the intelligence of the heart becomes more crucial to our humanity and to our collective intelligence as a species. And so this year in particular, a lot of the webinars and the retreats that I'm doing are all around getting out of the particular qualities of intelligence that are extraordinary, that rest within the cranium, but dropping a little lower down into the body, down into the heart, and allowing a deeper intelligence to be spoken into the world. So, and you'll also, if you signed up for the workshop tonight, if you checked, yes, I'd love to hear more about other things in the future. You'll get those emails, and you can always check the website. But for now, I want to acknowledge, as Eli did, that um, the people that come together at a particular moment, um, whether they know each other or not before that moment, there is something deeper that calls us together and weaves us together. And there are ways that we inform each other that are deeper than the words we speak, just through our presence. So I want to acknowledge that this is a group of mystics, and this is a group of people whose presence means something in this world, beyond whatever we think about ourselves, that there's a deeper wisdom that brought us here, and that uses our love and our life to make an impact that matters. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Eli, for a wonderful evening. And and I encourage you all to spend more time with this beautiful book. It has so many layers to it. Good night, everybody.